Okay, so let's jump right into this pretty wild story. It's about a Delta Airlines jet that landed upside down in Toronto.
Upside down.
Yeah, and get this. All 80 passengers and crew walked away.
You're kidding.
Nope, it's a true story. It's one of those things where you just look at it and go, how is that even possible?
I mean, I know planes are built to withstand a lot, but upside down, that's a whole other level.
Right, so this wasn't some little puddle jumper either. We're talking a twin-engine Mitsubishi CRJ 900LR.
Okay, yeah, I know that plane.
Arrived from Minneapolis, was landing at Toronto's Pearson Airport. And the conditions, they weren't exactly a walk in the park, you know?
Like a storm or something.
Well, winds were gusting into 40 miles per hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not ideal for, keeping a plane perfectly upright when you're trying to land it.
That's for sure. So how did the whole thing unfold?
Well, the first thing that's kind of interesting is that the communication between the pilot and the tower during the approach seemed totally routine.
Really? Nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing. No red flags, no mayday, just normal back and forth like they were landing any other plane on any other day.
Okay, but then obviously something went wrong.
Obviously. So that's what we got to figure out. Like, what could possibly make a plane flip during landing when everything seemed fine just moments before?
Right. It's like one of those physics problems where it seems impossible, but then you have to figure out what force made it happen.
Exactly. Now, there are a few theories floating around out there. One of them comes from a former air traffic controller named Todd Urey.
Okay. What does he think?
Well, he thinks that maybe those extreme wind gusts we were talking about played a bigger role than anyone initially thought.
I could see that. I mean, if a gust hits you just right at the wrong moment.
Exactly. But it's not just the wind. There's also the question of ice on the runway. Because if there was ice, well, that could have made things super slippery.
Yeah, it'd be like trying to land on a skating rink.
Pretty much. But here's where things get even more complicated. The fire chief at the airport actually came out and said that the runway was dry.
No ice.
No ice. And there was no crosswind.
So what's a crosswind? Just for, those of us who don't spend all our time in the air.
Right. So crosswind is basically wind blowing across the runway.
I see.
Instead of head on or from behind, which makes landing a lot harder because you got to kind of fight that sideways force.
Okay.
But they're saying there wasn't any of that.
So we've got some conflicting information here.
We do. And this is why these investigations are so important. You got to look at everything. Passing together the puzzle, so to speak.
Exactly, all those little details.
Speaking of details, we actually have an account from a passenger who was on that flight. His name is Peter Carlson.
And what does he say?
Well, he said the landing was very forceful. Before he knew it, he was upside down.
Wow, I bet that was disorienting.
To say at least. But, the good news is that emergency services were there super quick, within minutes.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. They got everyone out safely, which is a testament to, training and procedures and all that.
Yeah, being prepared for the worst.
It makes you wonder if they actually have specific procedures for a flipped aircraft, though. I mean, that's not exactly something you see every day, right?
That's true, but I'm sure a lot of the basic principles of, emergency evacuation apply no matter what position the plane is in, getting people out fast and safe.
Right. Now, unfortunately, not everyone walked away completely unscathed. 18 passengers did end up needing to go to the hospital.
Oh, man.
But thankfully, none of the injuries were life-threatening.
Still, it makes you think about the impact something like this can have. Even if everyone survives, there's still the emotional side of things, the trauma.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to the big question. What caused the plane to flip in the first place?
Yeah. If it wasn't the wind and it wasn't ice, then what was it?
Was it a mechanical issue? Pilot error? Something else entirely? We don't know.
That's going to be up to the investigators to figure out.
Yep. And while they do their thing, I think it's worth thinking about this. Air travel is statistically very safe.
That's true.
But there's always room for improvement, for learning, and maybe this whole incident can teach us something.
Absolutely.
About how to make things even safer.
Absolutely. There's always something to learn.
So, yeah, it's a crazy story, and we'll be keeping an eye on the investigation to see what they find out. But for now, we're left with more questions than answers. What do you think could have caused this? What factors beyond the obvious might have played a role? Something to think about, isn't it?
It really is.
All right, well, until next time, keep your seatbelt fastened and your thinking caps on.
And maybe stay away from planes landing in 40-mile-per-hour gusts.